In light of this morning's announcements about our football schedule and games at War Memorial Stadium, I thought it was probably appropriate for me to engage with each of you for a few minutes, give you a couple of comments, and then answer the questions you have about War Memorial Stadium. And obviously, I understand the Arkansas State game is a significant story across our state. Just a little bit of background on how this all came to be. After the season, Coach Pittman and I sat down to talk about the future of our football program. One of the aspects of that is scheduling. And one thing that he made abundantly clear to me during the course of that meeting, that it was very important to the future success of our program to play as many SEC games as possible here on campus in Fayetteville. Shortly thereafter, I reached out to Secretary Hurst and just started to have some very informal discussions with her about what it might look like if we were to move our Missouri games out of Little Rock and back on campus. And those conversations kind of heightened a little bit after the holidays and after she had a chance to talk to some of her constituents there in Little Rock. And she was unbelievable and understanding what we're trying to build with our football program here at the University of Arkansas and what we need to be successful. And so I want to thank Secretary Hurst for her understanding and really helping bring this together. One thing she made abundantly clear is if the Razorback football program was going to continue to have a presence in Little Rock or Memorial Stadium, that she thought they needed to be meaningful games. And as we started talking about what meaningful games look like, obviously in-state competition, starting with our game versus University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff this year, again in 24, and then working towards that game with Arkansas State in 25, or what her and I determined were meaningful games there at War Memorial Stadium. I want to thank Terry Mahajer at Arkansas State. When I reached out to him a few weeks back, he had a game in 2025 versus Texas A&M that was under contract that he had to work to move. And so thanks to Terry, thanks to Chris Peterson at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff for their willingness to move their games in 21 and 24 from Fayetteville to Little Rock. And I want to also thank Chancellor Steinmetz and the Board of Trustees for their support during this process. And I want to be clear that this decision had no other motivation than what is best for the Arkansas Razorback football program. And I never had the opportunity to work with or get to know, obviously, John Barnhill or Frank Broyles and the decisions that they made not to play in-state competition. And it's no disrespect to either one of those two and the decisions they made. I am sure they made those in what they thought was in the best interest of the Razorback athletic program at that point in time in our history. And we would not be sitting where we are today having the success that we are as an athletic program without their leadership and decisions. But I felt like the timing is right as we opened up in-state competition with their sister schools in several sports 2 years ago to continue through this pandemic with many of our sports competing against Arkansas State and Central Arkansas. And then obviously it just makes sense at this point in time to enter into that football game with Arkansas State in 2025. So with that, I will stop, and Kyle, you can open up for questions.
Thanks, Hunter. Tom, you want to get us started?
That would be wonderful. Thanks for doing this, Hunter. What was the icebreaker on the Arkansas State series? Because that's kind of been the one that people had talked about, but maybe wasn't as feasible. And then from a broader perspective, do you feel like going beyond 25 that this could become an annual thing in War Memorial against in-state teams?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it's just 2025. It was a challenging enough hurdle to get to 2025, Tom, but I think the icebreaker is Terry Mahajer and I have been friends for a while. So we were able to communicate and work through this. And I think the support that Chancellor Steinmetz I received from him and from our board and some of the behind the scenes things that they did to help make this happen. I think we've proven in competition in other sports that, with their baseball program, playing their sister schools, playing Little Rock, We actually lost our first game to Little Rock, but we still went on to the College World Series that year, and we still have top recruiting classes. And things didn't fall apart across our state because the Razorbacks were competing against other schools within the state. And so I think, just as we talked about a few years ago, we were going to dip our toe in the water with our sister schools, and I think the timing was right to continue to expand what that looked like for competition with our in-state schools.
Okay, and Governor Asa Hutchinson, what was his influence on all this, would you say?
Governor Hutchinson and I had a conversation about this. Obviously, this is significant enough within our state that was not going to be a decision that was not made without at least discussing that with him. So he was very supportive.
Dudley?
When you look at there's been so many debate and stuff about having games in Little Rock and having more in Fayetteville. Talk about wanting to keep some of those games in Little Rock and just becoming a way to maybe make it even more special down there.
Well, the one thing I've learned about the state of Arkansas, Dudley, since I've been here is that the Razorbacks are spread throughout this state, and our presence across this state is very, very important. There's not another major professional sports franchise. It's not another Power 5 franchise. We have a presence in Central Arkansas. Our baseball team is there on an annual basis. In a normal year, our men's and women's basketball teams would be competing there. It's important for our football team to be there as well. But those other sports compete in non-conference competition, not in SEC competition. The baseball stadium over there is traditionally sold out. The basketball arena, the last time our men's team was there, was sold out. And I think once our football program gets to where I know Sam Pittman is going to bring it, that War Memorial Stadium will be sold out for these games as well.
Nate?
Yeah, Hunter, as far as War Memorial, it wasn't just basically a must if you were going to play the SEC games up here to have the in-state games down there?
Nate, I believe so. I think when you talk about what are meaningful games in Little Rock, if you're not going to play SEC games there, you have to look at your future football schedule. And I think meaningful games is those in-state games with Arkansas Pine Bluff and with Arkansas State.
Also, as far as Missouri, were they pretty amenable to moving back up here to Fayetteville?
Missouri didn't really have a choice in that. That was it's our home game, so we can play that back in Fayetteville. But I did communicate with their AD about that. But yes, they were amenable.
Well, they get a larger split, don't they? But if they play it at Fayetteville.
No, they don't. It's our home game, and we had to get permission to move our home game to Little Rock, and they had agreed to that, and they were okay with moving it back to Fayetteville.
Thanks.
Trey Biddy?
Yeah, Hunter. I polled Arkansas fans what they thought about the Arkansas State game, and 64% of them want to see the game played, but the other third are concerned. And I think going back, historically, that Arkansas doesn't have anything to gain by playing this game. If they lose, it diminishes the standing as the top school in the state. What do you say to fans who, because it is a large majority, it's not the majority, but it is a large percentage that feel that way?
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to the competition that we've seen in our other sports, and we lost one of those games, a baseball game, and it didn't hurt our recruiting in the state for our baseball program. It didn't hurt us advancing to the College World Series. I don't see that as being the case. I mean, yes, we could lose that game, but we're still going to be the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. We're still going to be a member of the Southeastern Conference. I think we will still dominate the state in recruiting with other in-state schools in all of those sports. I mean, we play other Sun Belt schools, Trey. Arkansas State's a member of the Sun Belt Conference. It's a great football conference. You talk about Louisiana, Central Carolina, Arkansas State, App State, and what they've done as a football conference. And, we've got Georgia Southern on our schedule this year. We're supposed to play Louisiana Monroe. So I look at Arkansas State just as another Sun Belt Conference school, and we're going to play two group of five schools every year, whether it's from the Sun Belt Conference USA, the Mid-American, the American or the Mountain West, and Arkansas State falls into that category. And I think what's been pretty cool is that there's been a great deal of attention across our state on college football in February. And I think that's what shows what this game is going to mean to people across the state, whether you're a Razorback fan or whether you're a Redwood fan. It's going to be a pretty cool atmosphere in September of 2025.
Do you have any information on the financials of it, like the split in terms of seating, how much Arkansas State will get and how much they're getting paid?
I'm not going to provide the exact figures because we're still negotiating contracts with some other schools, but there's a split of cash guarantee as well as some tickets that would equal to a normal cash contract that we would do with the fellow Sunbelt school.
Hutch.
Yeah, Hunter, I'm not sure if you're able to answer this right now, but I mean, even whether it's against Arkansas State or UAPB or anything, do you anticipate continuing to play in War Memorial beyond 2025?
And I will tell you, our presence in Central Arkansas is important across all of our sports. And, we work on more of an annual basis with men's and women's basketball and baseball, and we're scheduled out now through 25 in football. And we'll just continue to evaluate what's best for our athletic program. And if it's best for our program to continue to grow, to be in Central Arkansas, we'll continue to be in Central Arkansas.
Bob. Bob, we'll come back. Hayden.
Hey, Hunter, thanks so much for doing this. Just a quick question of what's your phone like right now? How much has it been blown up? And has the historical significance of today kind of dawned on you yet? Or I know you're looking at it as just another Sunbelt game, but at the same time, this is a big deal to a lot of people. And just knowing that you're going to be the AD that finally gets to see these two teams on the field. Just kind of wondering how you felt about that.
Well, Hayden, first and foremost, I hope I'm still here in 2025 and get to see these two teams actually on the field. I think that would be great. But I will tell you that I've gotten several text messages since this release, and every single one of them is going to be positive. Maybe that those are going to send me negative text messages, don't have my cell phone number. But, I think it's I don't know if we're breaking down barriers, but I think it's been really neat across some of our other sports. I have a grid of the 19 sports we sponsor and the other 4 in-state Division I schools and how many times we played in the last 2 years, and it's starting to fill up green. If you go back and do some of the research, whether it's track and field, cross country, baseball, our women's soccer team is going to play Arkansas State twice this year. It's pretty cool to see our in-state schools competing against the Razorbacks.
Bob?
Yeah, Hunter, can you hear me?
I can, Bob.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. I think Nate set my laptop up or something. But, hey, do you anticipate playing, the in-state schools on a regular basis in the future?
I really only work with our coaches, our football coach on football schedule, and all of our other coaches handle their schedules individually. But they all have the wherewithal to schedule in-state schools as they see fit. And I think as we look at more regional scheduling that's both efficient for cost and travel and things of that nature, I think you will continue to see that moving forward.
And when it comes to, board of trustees, boosters, movers and shakers, did you get any pushback on this from anybody that said, oh, don't do this, don't play ASU? Was there any resistance from anybody that matters?
There were people that had varying opinions to mine about how we should move forward, but not to the point where they wanted to put their foot down and say this absolutely cannot happen. Yes, there were people that disagreed with me about was this the right decision, but nobody that felt strong enough in their conviction about this that they were going to make sure it didn't happen.
Otis.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Hunter. But on the how much did the COVID, the financial hits you guys took this year with the COVID and everything, how much did that play into trying to get that Missouri game up here? In addition to Sam wanting it up here, but how much did all that play into the financial situation?
Otis, I wouldn't be telling you the truth if I didn't tell you that obviously the finances of having another SEC game versus potentially having an FCS game here are not significant. But the number one driver was the competitive advantage that Coach Pittman believed it has for his football program for us to play SEC games here on campus.
Nikki?
Yeah, Hunter, you guys have, these world-class facilities up in Fayetteville. I guess a lot of people wonder, War Memorial might not be as flashy. So are there renovations that might be coming down the pipeline or just any upgrades that fans might get excited about having the Hogs play there?
Well, I don't know about the fan amenities, Nikki, but I can tell you that they installed a new turf last year. They renovated the visiting team locker room. They were in the process of renovating the home locker room in preparation for the Missouri game this year. So they'll be ready for the Pine Bluff game. Other than that, from a fan amenity standpoint, I don't know what their plans are for the golf course that surrounded that. That was a big tailgating spot. But I can tell you that they've made a concerted effort to improve the student athlete amenities within War Memorial Stadium.
Let me know if you've got more questions in the chat. Dudley?
Obviously, you mentioned the competitive advantage for Coach Pittman. Obviously, since the end of the year, he's changed up his staff a little bit. Just talk about, maybe the excitement of him filling that out and getting into the next season.
Yeah, that was part of our kind of and the staff he put together as a first-time head coach. And he felt as he had an opportunity to work alongside his full-time assistants and people along his staff for a full year, that there needed to be some changes made. And him and I worked together to figure out how financially to make that work so he could put together some changes to his staff. And we're excited to get those new coaches here and joining our staff. And I think having an opportunity to meet them, that it is definitively a better fit for our program, and look forward to seeing them on the field coaching our student athletes here this spring.
Trey Schapp.
Hey, Hunter, I'm curious as to what the reaction by Terry Mohajir was when you finally made that call to him to say, hey, it's done, we're going to do it.
I mean, obviously for Terry and the Arkansas State program, that this is a big deal. It's something that from the day I arrived, Terry, or the day really quite honestly that I was announced, because Terry and I have been friends, that he's been kind of knocking on my door to make this happen. And so obviously he was very excited, and he had to, it's not easy to move football games, and Terry had to move a football game with Texas A&M, find them another opponent. So he had to put in some significant time and effort to make this happen, and I'm very appreciative to him for that. But Trey, he's very excited, obviously.
Hutch.
Hunter, you mentioned that the main factor in this was that Sam wanted more home games, SEC home games in Fayetteville. Would that apply also to the Texas A&M game? Do you anticipate that being moved back to Fayetteville whenever that contract expires? And if so, could you envision playing other maybe non-conference games at AT&T Stadium?
Yeah, what I will tell you is Ross Bjork and the folks at Texas A&M have made it abundantly clear that when the contract is over with AT&T Stadium, that they would like to see those games back on campus following the 2024 season. We would be next in line in the 2025 season to have the Texas A&M game back here on campus. And so our home game is this year as well as in 23. So if you look at our schedule over the next 5 years, we have 20 SEC home games. 18 of those will be played here in Fayetteville. The 2 that will not be will be the 2 we play in Dallas at AT&T Stadium against A&M. And then after that, I foresee those games moving back on campus. Now, whether we play some non-conference games, kind of those kickoff classics, things of that nature at other venues like an AT&T Stadium in the future, I think that's a definitive possibility. Whether that happens over the course of a 10-year agreement, again, probably doubtful.
Trey Biddy.
Yeah, Hunter, I was wondering where you are right now in terms of finding the, I guess, associate AD in terms of name, image, likeness, where you are in that process. What's your level of excitement for the announcement that the NCAA video game is coming out? And are you a PlayStation guy or an Xbox guy? And what's your handle?
Well, Trey, I'll answer the last one first. I mean, since we have a PlayStation in our house, I would say I'm a PlayStation guy, but I do not play video games. I don't have time. And my younger son, Brooks, would just, it wouldn't be even a contest. He would whip me pretty good. I will be honest, the EA Sports announcement kind of caught us a little bit off guard. I would prefer that they had waited till we had ironed out the name, image, and likeness piece as an NCAA before they announced that. We knew that was coming. The announcement, quite honestly, caught us all in college athletics a little off guard with its timing. As far as the position goes, that closed the Friday the week before last. John Fagg is leading that search, and I know they've narrowed the field down to a few candidates that we will visit with by way of Zoom in the coming weeks. And we hope to have that person here on campus sometime in March to early April at the latest.
Last one, Russell.
I just want to get your thoughts on the UConn win last week for Coach Neighbors and the job that he's doing here building that women's program.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. And I think I joked about it maybe the last time we talked. I mean, when he reached out and said, Vanderbilt's going to shut their season down, we've got an opportunity to fill a void with them. I want to play UConn. I thought, quite honestly, he was kidding that he wanted to trade Vanderbilt for UConn, but he did. He was serious. And, our women played at Georgia. They lost a tough game on a buzzer beater on Monday. They had to bounce back and play that game on Thursday. We had some COVID issues that came up on Thursday morning, quite candidly. We had to sit some people out. And he just worked through all of that adversity and did an incredible job preparing our girls to play a great game. And he's just doing a great job building our program. When I first arrived, he liked to determine that we were in the SEC South, which he said was the bottom, and we were going to make it to the SEC Midwest, and then we're going to be in the SEC North, which, even in spite of you look at our losses this year, all against top-rated teams. Maryland, outside of our conference, I think is in the top 10, and everybody else is in the top 20. And I think it proved the fact that what we were able to do with the UConn game on Thursday, how tough the SEC is in women's basketball.